One World Championship here at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, or the Brazilian Grand Prix for English people. I'm Brett Keenan, joined in commentary by Matthew Elliott. Looks like we're going to have some very interesting racing today, with a couple of big names not turning up today. Yesterday's Grand Prix, yesterday's two-tier races we were able to crown both F3 and F4 champions. Albert Ramirez Garcia, the F4 champion, and Sterling West, the F3 champion. So, Matt, your job next weekend at Abu Dhabi will be to battle it out with EF Guinea for second in the championship. And we said it in F3, and you know it's been a tough season for you. You've definitely been one of the most improved all season long, as well as Robin Kreff. But you should be able to at least hold your head high that through it all you've been able to hold on to the championship lead for as long as you have, and still could come out of it second or third in the championship, because you're pretty much confirmed for second or third, depending on the race results in F3 next weekend.
Yeah, it's been a long season. Really didn't expect to be up in the top of the standings in the first place, so it's quite a surprise, and I know I've improved a lot. But we still have to look forward to the constructors. That battle's still going on, so hopefully my teammate can show up and we can both deliver a strong performance next week.
And it's going to be a very interesting telling point. I couldn't tell you what the constructors' battle will be like for F3 or F4, but I think F4 might be insecure by the Alfa Romeo team. I'm just going to quickly... what have I done? Oh no, never mind. Anyway, I'm just going to quickly chat to these people and just say we're going... Alright, come on guys, we're behind schedule, let's go. Ready up, ready up, ready up. Sorry about that. So anyway, I asked you, well, I asked Mark and Josh yesterday what defines the Brazilian Grand Prix circuit. How do you define the Brazilian Grand Prix circuit?
I find it fun. That'd be my biggest word. It's got a little bit of everything. You don't have like the stop, make a sharp turn, no hairpins. That's kind of a good thing. You don't really have to worry about a lot of traction, except for maybe the last turn. You got a little uphill left turn in turn one, then back downhill, kind of like USA. I find it very fun. It's not a lot of hard braking points. It's rather enjoyable unless you get on the curbs in the wrong spots that throw you over the, like in turn 2 and 3. You take the first, if you take I'm sorry, you take turn 2 wrong and go into turn 3, it can really mess you up.
So, we noticed yesterday a lot of different strategy points playing out. Some doing the two-stop, for some it worked, for some others it didn't. Connor Paisley in particular, who did F4 as an invitational, did the two-stop in F4. It didn't work out for him. He did the one-stop in the F3 race. It almost kind of came undone for him, especially when you came up on him at the end of the race with your two-stop, and with Connor almost emulating a Glock situation while we were having a joke about it. Was quite funny, but so it'll be interesting to see what the F1 drivers do today. We've also got a special invitational driver. Usually it's Stanley Belrose. Today it's actually Tyler Beasley from F3. So Tyler, who originally started the Transnation Formula 1 in full assist, moved to no assist, and now he's going to have his hand in having a go and see where he stacks up against the best of the best in the F1 category. So no Mackenzie Stewart, it looks like. He had been complaining about an injury to his foot, which Didn't hamper him too much as far as I believe in the Transnational Supercar Championship last night. The results of that in Joshua Banks taking out race 1, then myself in race 2 to create us two on the front row for the feature race later on this afternoon. So it looks like a few drivers have elected to start on the soft tyre. John Lindbergh in particular has gone down that path, as has Nadir Ziyat, and Tyler Beasley's actually gone out on the medium, so he's looking to try and do a different variational strategy. He's always been that kind of person too. He's always elected to go for the opposite strategy to everyone else, and I don't know whether that's just because he thinks that he's got the tyre pace to be able to continuate that kind of form, or whether he's just looking to do anything. So he does get out of the way of his teammate, Melvin his fill-in he's the fill-in, but he gets out of the way of his temporary teammate Melvin, who's actually spun it up at Glock Corner, and he's been disqualified for... Yeah, well, he was going the wrong way for quite a long time, so it's no wonder that the game has elected to disqualify him for it, so he'll be disappointed by that as he goes off in the runoff section that Raikkonen did in 2012 for that, that got him lost. So, it looks like James Retief is also going to be doing a run on the medium tyres as well, and he's just going to need to be careful here because Nadir Ziyat's zooming in on a run here. So I think Nadir now will be our first driver out on a flying lap because of Melvin's disqualification. So Melvin will start at the back of the field, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he does pipe up about that, but he kind of did make a mistake by following reverses. Addy actually goes to the top, with a 1 minute 8.3, so Addy was actually the first driver out. In fact, Addy's usually quite often the first driver out, as March goes second with a 109.3. Good to see March back too, though, as well, so March will be looking to kind of bounce back from the races he's missed. And what do you think about March's season so far?
He's been okay. I understand it. He's got a big time gap where it's like, what, 2 in the morning there, or 3 in the morning?
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, so it's got to be really hard to be racing at that time. He's a pretty good driver for the most part. Probably another one of those that can chalk it up to bad luck. But it's got to be just horrible to race at that time of day.
He's lucky though in one race, in one way, as Daniel goes to the top with a 1:07.6, which is immediately the fastest time set all weekend at the moment. Oddly enough, his luck this season has been a lot better than the luck he was sharing last season, where he was actually always disconnecting. Every single race he would disconnect. So he never really had a good shot. It wasn't until about midway through the end half of the season where he started, his internet started to kind of correct itself, and he was getting back on top of things. I don't know if you've ever watched back on a few races, but one race in particular that always captures my attention is the F3 race in Japan, when our former F3 champion, our outgoing F3 champion, Stefan Naumburger, Mason Ward, and March were all in close combat on the final lap. March then ended up spinning it after the first turn and ruined his chances of winning the race on penalty countback. And it was just one of those races that just captured the attention of everyone. Now, Engine Segal's gone P2 with a 1 minute 8.3. And I thought he was... A lot of drivers have been doing this thing with the pit lane where they use the pit lane entry to get as good of a lap in as possible, so it does confuse you a little bit as to whether or not these people are coming into the pit. So I reckon next season, well actually Brazil was not on the calendar next season, so we don't have to worry about it too much, but I think for season 4 regulations we'll probably look into the idea of forbidding that kind of movement for the sake of personally gaining an advantage, but we won't worry about that now. Anyway, so Tyler's gone to P6 as he goes off it, or he straight lines turn 1 and turn 2. He's gone to P6 with a 1 minute 8.7 on the medium tyres. That's actually a really reasonable time on a set of mediums.
Yeah, he's pretty good on the harder compounds at setting lap times. He's done it all year in F3.
And he's been super consistent with it. It's just been a contrast of success for Tyler since he was already quick up to pace, sort of quick when he was using the no assists, and it was basically it was basically me and Mark's commentary that kind of sparked Tyler's need to kind of prove us wrong in that frame. And I've just actually been given information by our F4 champion Albert Ramirez Garcia that the actual fastest lap at the moment in qualifying is a 1 minute 7.5 set by Robin Kreft actually. So Robin in F3 currently holding the fastest overall time of the weekend. And I did say this to Mark and Josh. The Robin responds with a cheeky comment there, but yeah, Robin's definitely got the pace to be able to contend in F1 if he was able to turn his assists off and run no assists like Tyler has been able to. So I reckon with enough time and practice, I reckon you could see Robin in as well. And Tyler's definitely showing his true pace at the moment. So running on the medium tyre against a whole heap of others who are running on the supers, it's a definite one-stop for every driver, it looks like. Well, from here, it's now John now breaks the lap record, the qualifying lap record for the weekend with a 1 minute 7.3. So John's looking to just kind of, I think John knows the championship is somewhat over, given that he won't be there to race in Abu Dhabi by his own account. He probably will be trying to prove us wrong and prove himself wrong on that one. But he wants to be able to make the championship battle as close as possible if by chance he's able to come back and race in the next race. But I think as long as Daniel stays where he is right now and nothing happens to him today, he should be crowned the F1 champion officially. Now, we said that in Mexico last weekend, and that was only because the calculations were made from the gap between Daniel and Mackenzie. Now, we didn't know at the time that John would actually leapfrog Mackenzie in the championship with his race win and Mackenzie not turning up. So it changed the perspective. The gap between Daniel and John today is 50 points, so it's an exact 50 points, which by normal contrast usually means that Daniel should have won the championship today at Mexico, like he did. But we do like to play on the prospect that anything can happen. A DNF today and a win for John could put it all onto the mantle, but that would also make a really hard job for John at Abu Dhabi. What with Daniel would only have to finish in the points if John won to win the title, so it would be a lot of damage limitation for Daniel to kind of. He wouldn't really push for it. I know he'd like to push for the win, but I'm sure he would know with the title pretty much on the balance there, he wouldn't. And I know this is going to be funny, but sorry, Robin, as you've just rightly put out, your sexy lap time has been destroyed and could possibly be destroyed further. Because Daniel's now back out on a set of super soft tyres, looking to do another lap. We've got 7 minutes left on the clock, so more than enough time to put some decent lap times. And it doesn't look like anyone's really. Well, actually, Engine's gone out on a set of soft, so I'm not sure why, but I think Engine's convinced that he might be able to go faster on the soft tyre. In fact, Tyler's responded by going on the soft tyre as well. So, Eddie's also moved up, well, he hasn't moved up, but he's gone to P3 with a 1 minute 7.999, so 1/100th of a second more, and he would have been still in the 1 minute 8. So not bad there by Eddie, and I think Eddie's been probably the season improver for this season. He came into Bahrain having only, God damn it, Daniel, what are you doing?
Oof. I wouldn't be running that close to the wall. I'd get scared.
I was just wondering why his wheel didn't just suddenly fly off and that was game over, but just riding on board with him anyway, just watching through the laps. Yeah, Eddie's definitely, I think, this being this season's biggest improvement. He went into Bahrain, which was round 3, took over my seat. Well, actually, he took John's seat, to which Daniel, because John took my seat at Red Bull. So it was an interesting room for improvement, and now he's been able to qualify among the best. He just needs to kind of convert that into race pace, and he should be. I reckon he'll be an F1 candidate for next season with our 10 race formula. And I reckon next season could be a good chance for him to bounce through and score a win here or there. I mean, there's a lot of drivers in the F1 category I think could win races. It's just a matter of being able to look after themselves during the race. Now, engine, I actually haven't had the lap data on the whole time. So engine crosses the line does a 1 minute 8.7 on the soft, which is only 0.4 of a second slower than his super soft time. And Tyler's gone to P4 with a 1 minute 8.2 on the soft tyre. So that's a scary yet juicy, tantalising prospect that it could be better for Tyler if he jumps on the super soft tyre. Daniel's gone better with a 1 minute 7.4. Only 1/10 off John's personal best. I still reckon there's still room for maybe a 1 minute 7.1, maybe. What did we miss?
Engine was looking like he was going to best his lap and put into the wall.
Yeah, just caught the end of that bit. So he definitely pushes hard, Engine, and I don't blame him. I mean, his lap times and time trial are just unbelievably quick, but he hasn't really fully translated them into pole positions in the races, and then of course the races he hasn't really been able to. I think he's only ever finished one race in the time that he's been here, and he debuted in F1 in Belgium. So in the amount of races he's had, he's only finished one race, and that was in Italy, where he finished behind Daniel Valle in that very confusing tyre strategy race, where Daniel was able to go from super soft to soft and take that to the end, which really prompted the question of what he was using, because we thought he was using a controller at the time, and we thought that's unbelievable that a driver on the controller is saving tyres to a point where it's unbelievably inaccurate. But yeah, it turned out he was on a wheel, and he just drives the car like it's on a pad, which is amazing. Nadir Ziyech on shot here on the super soft tyre. He's set a 1 minute 8.5. He's crossing the line now. He does a 14, so that must have been his first out lap, so he must be on another flyer. So Nadir's had a pretty up and down season. He started in Ferrari, probably didn't get off to the greatest of starts when he actually took his teammate out on the last lap of Australia, when being lapped by Daniel. So it wasn't the greatest start, and then from there it was a bit of a struggle for Nadir to kind of persevere onwards. So he was demoted to Haas under the contracting rule for the season, which was later scrapped, and now he's kind of come back on form a little bit after a bit of a rough start to his Haas debut, or Haas season. And as said before, Adi Bettenbauer on shot here. Definitely, would you agree to say that he's definitely been the F1's top achiever? Or most improved?
I would say so. Because when I started commentating with you, he was always at the back, or getting caught up in stuff, sometimes having to pit twice for wings. And these last few races, he's just turned up the wick a little bit and composed himself, and he's actually getting results now.
I'm actually trying to think about that. When did you start commentating with me? Must have been...
Baku?
Yeah, it might have been. Because you joined the TNF1 in Bahrain with the rest of the F3 candidates, and then we didn't start commentating F3 until the next race, which would have been France, and then... Yeah, well, actually, yeah, it would have been either Baku or Monaco, one of the two there, so might have to look back on that and figure that one out, because I think I did run solo commentary for a good while before anything. So Eddie has only marginally improved his lap time by 47 one-hundredths of a one-thousandths of a second to do a 1 minute 7.953. So it's an improvement, but this is gonna actually, we need to watch this one. This is going to be interesting. Tyler Beasley on the super soft tyre, and his outlap was a 1 minute 8.0
on his outlap.
Well, I think so. It might have been an invalidated lap thing. He must have probably he probably would have done something, but this is going to be a lap worth watching because he did a 1 minute 8.2 on the soft tyre. He's only really a second slower than Daniel and John on the super soft tyre. The super soft tyre has a general second gain, so this is going to be interesting. He's really pushing it. He's really gunning for it. It's looking really smooth. Well, about as smooth as a reckless man can go. Immediately on the DRS, uses the absolute limits. He goes across the line. 1 minute 7.6. He goes P3. Only 2 tenths.
Very nice. Here comes Daniel. Oh, Daniel threw it away.
Can John improve his lap time? Could John get into the sixes? John crosses the line and he'll set a 1 minute 7.338, so he only marginally improves. So John Lindberg takes pole yet again, but I think I actually might have to take back what I said about Daniel winning the pole award, because I'm not actually 100% sure if that's true, but I'll go back on the information and I'll come back. Well, actually, I won't come back to you on it because I won't be commentating for F1 next weekend. I'll be racing to hand over the world champion, the number 1, so I will get Matt to clarify who wins the DHL or the TKA Media Pole Award for season 2018 in both categories as well, because I think F2 is still up in the air as well. But anyway, so John takes another pole position. I think that's back-to-back pole positions for John actually this weekend. Daniel Val again on the front row to make it very interesting there. And then Tyler Beasley, the fill-in for Jules Vandenbroek in third place. He'll be delighted with that, to know that he's only 3 tenths off the fastest 2 of the F1 season. So Engine Segal moved up to a 1.7.6 on the super soft, to only be really not that much in it between himself and Tyler. Eddie Bettenbauer will be pretty delighted still, despite the fact he's dropped down to P5. Nadir, I think that's a season best qualifying for Nadir, in position 6 ahead of March. I didn't see who the other two were at that time, but we'll see that on the formation lap, no doubt.
Got a question from Oliver Coleman on the stream. Would you rather have Brazil as a season ender or Abu Dhabi?
Sorry?
Question from Oliver Coleman on the stream is, would you rather have Brazil or Abu Dhabi as a season ender?
To be honest, it could go either which way, because they have been in the past several times. There has been a few accounts where Abu Dhabi and Brazil have switched places. I know in 2012 they switched places and Brazil was the season closer. In 2011, I think it was also... in 2010, I think it was also the... No, actually, no. I think there was only 1 or 2 cases where Abu Dhabi was the second to last race, and I don't really think it matters too much which one it is, because a lot of people say Abu Dhabi should be the season closer because it's the day to night race, but Brazil has a lot of heritage of being the final race. I mean, we've seen so many title deciders in the past. The Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Kimi Raikkonen title decider of 07, the Hamilton Massa decider of 09, the Button Vettel decider in 09, the Vettel Alonso decider in 2012. There's so many cases where the championship has been won in Brazil, so I would say personally Brazil should be the season closer, honestly, because Abu Dhabi is just another race. I don't really look at the day to night racing sequences, anything more on that, but we'll get past that and we'll talk about it later on the race. For now, while we've got time, Matt, I'll get you to run us through the TKA media starting grid.
Alright, with another pole position to his name, John Lindberg, P1, Daniel Val, P2, Kyla Beasley, P3, Engine Sigel, P4, Eddie Bettenbaugh, P5, Nadir Ziyat, P6, March Trasandi, P7, James Retief, P8, and Melvin Strabaka, P9.
And we'll just have a quick look at the tyre situation, as Tyler and Engine have been removed from the session for excessiveness. So the top 5 are all on the super soft tyre. March also on the super soft tyre, and Nadir Ziyat, James Retief and Melvin Strabaka all starting on the soft tyre. So the one-stop strategy, we presume, is the way to go. We'll see. Be very interested to see who compiles the two-stop. The lights are about to build up. We know how this goes, so we're not going to go too high glory here. But this is it. This could be where the F1 Championship's decided. Wait, the lights have... What the hell was that all about? Either which way, the lights go out, away we go. And it looks like it's actually been a pretty poor start by Daniel Vale. John Lindberg's going to lead them off into turn 1. Eddie Bettenbauer's actually been able to get through the field quite cleanly. Tyler's been kind of swamped as they come through turn 3. Eddie Bettenbauer's managed to clear him, as has Engine Segal. Everyone, surprisingly, has gotten through turn 1 reasonably okay. Here comes Eddie Bettenbauer down the inside of Segal at turn 3. And Daniel Vale's actually trying to push the issue on John for position, heading up into the infamous turn 5. They're going to go side by side into turn 5. Daniel trying to push around the outside. Will he set himself up for the move down the inside here at turn 6? No, he won't. He funnels back in. Eddie's through on Engine Segal. Tyler around the outside of Engine to get up to P4. And Melvin's had a beautiful start. He's up to P6, challenging Segal for P5. In fact, here we go down the inside. Melvin, not quite far enough. And March has actually ended up at the back of the field. Maybe got some damage. It certainly looks like he's struggling a little bit to get on the power and keep the car on a straight line. So maybe he's got some damage from the first lap. We'll just wait and see. So as he comes down the back straight, is he going to pull into the pits? Yes, he is. So he's got damage. So, and look at that, Daniel Vale right on the back of John. Daniel's not convinced that he's going to let John walk away with this race, when I mean these two are the two championship combatants. And Tyler Beasley right on the back of Eddie Bettenbauer as well. So everyone's managed to actually kind of get through safely. And Tyler's also played the role well of not really openly interfering with people's races by being obstructive. So he's done the first part of the job of being an invitational. John blocks a breakup, goes a bit wide heading into this tricky flowing area. These sets of corners can really make or break your performances, because you've got to be able to set the car up right through the turning. You've got to be able to nail the apexes. You don't want to actually hit the apex there, because it throws the car so much out of camber and it launches you off to the side. So here we go again. So down the back main straight for the second time of 36 laps, and John has only a 3.7 tenth of a second gap over Daniel, as Daniel does the fastest lap of the race, followed by the fastest lap. It's just shifted four times in that one lap, I think. Yeah, and it looks like Tyler's under attack now from Engine. Engine's right up his gearbox. In fact, so much up his gearbox that Tyler lost a bit of ground, but he won't fight too much, one would imagine, as he goes just a little fraction wide heading into the next set of corners, and Daniel's just looking as aggressive as always in pursuit of John. But at the same time, Addy Bettenbauer has actually joined this battle quite quickly, so it's turning into a three-way battle, which kind of further outlines Addy's improvement over the course of the season. Now, understandably, if you threw Mackenzie into the mix here, you'd say Mackenzie would be amongst this top 3, maybe even the top 4 battle at the moment, challenging behind Daniel or John or any which way. So he'll be kind of disappointed that he's elected not to attend today, and has succeeded to the idea that he's not going to be able to challenge for the championship this season, and then of course he's not going to be contesting next season from what we hear because of his course that he's attending, and with it only being a 10-race season, there's no point in attending the races that will be there for. So his primary focus will be the release of F1 2019 in Season 4. So Engine Seagull's cleared Tyler, but Tyler's got the DRS. Oh my goodness me! Okay, I don't know if that was desync or not, but there was just a brief moment there where Engine's car was launched off the circuit there as Tyler goes up the inside at 5. If he can hold it together enough there, he should have been able to get the move done, but it looks like Engine had that little bit of extra traction in hand there to play his hand. Now Melvin's dropped back a fair bit behind these two because he was initially challenging Engine for the position, and now he's dropped back. Nadir's got James Retief for company, and March is a long way back with medium tyre, but if he can hang on for this, at least he knows he's going to score 2 points as opposed to this. Now we go back to the battle up the front. John's pulled a bit of a gap on Daniel, but Daniel will still have DRS on him. Daniel's broken the DRS off Eddie, who's actually starting now to slowly fall back into the clutches of Engine, who's still got Tyler ranging down his throat. Now, what can Daniel do from back here? He's too far back. He's actually starting to lose a bit of ground, so he's probably gone from the basis. Oh, hang on just a second here. Tyler's still hassling the back of Engine. Tyler will be relishing this as he actually gets around the outside of 4. Will he hold it around 5? What a move there by Tyler Beasley. Beautiful move to get that job done. And will Engine fire it down? No, he won't. He knows he's been beaten in that regard, and he'll just set himself up for the next move. So I'm going to take a bit of a break here. Matt, you take over for a little bit.
There's a little bit of excitement, wasn't it? Oof. You got this battle between Tyler and Engines is still raging on. James Retief and Nadir Ziet still holding together, both being on the softs. Melvin sitting by himself.
On Tyler again, so while these two are still locked in combat with each other, it's going to be a very continuous battle. So it basically needs to be, as Tyler goes around the outside at 3, probably gets a little bit escorted off track, not enough to be an issue, but again Tyler back through. So while these two are pretty much within close proximities of each other, this battle's not going to end because they're going to keep having DRS on one another. Engine's going to have DRS on Tyler heading down the main straight, and then Tyler will have DRS heading into the next sector if Engine makes the move stick. So one of them has to make the pass move stick, and then they have to proceed to... Oh, as Tyler goes really wide into that last bit, and that's probably going to actually really cripple his run here. But it's like I said, one of them has to clear him, and the other one, then they have to get the gap and break the DRS, and that's going to be easier said than done when the DRS zones are so close to each other. So as you see here, so Engine makes the move, and now Tyler will be behind on the DRS activation zone, which will give Tyler the DRS again. But it looks like actually this time Engine's been a bit witty about it, and it's actually put it in a position where Tyler couldn't actually use the DRS to his advantage, and now Tyler's made a mistake, which has bridged the gap a little bit. Not enough to be primarily an issue, but always gone a bit shallow into 5. I know it's possible. You do tend to find a perfect line and it doesn't quite work out. One battle that's still raging on, though, is the battle in the front between Daniel and John. That hasn't really broken out of the DRS sector as well, but at the same time, Daniel, it doesn't look like he's got the straight line speed to really use the DRS to full effect, and Eddie's still hanging on to that position, and now Engine has finally broken that DRS on Tyler, so Tyler now is falling back into the clutches of his teammate, who's used this time to actually rope in these two drivers as they come through. Now Daniel's still too far back to use the DRS. Let's just see what kind of game
I
he
noticed
makes.
John's just so much better through turn 2 and 3.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself. It looks like Daniel's car is focused a lot on trying to get a lot of speed out of the traction zones, whereas John's car seems to just react so much nicer through the corners. And I wonder if that's to do more with the driving style of both drivers, because Daniel is definitely the more aggressive, takes the more aggressive approach to racing. He likes to just throw the car around, use the tyre, because he knows how to look after the tyres, so he throws the car around and is able to look after the tyres. John, on the other hand, seems to take more of a conservative approach, where he can look after the tyres but still maintain a decent pace to be able to play a hand here. Now, as we come closer to the pit window, well, actually the pit window has already been met for the super soft runners, but everyone generally does tend to try and push this one-stop strategy of the super soft. Oh, actually, John was a little slow through that. This time I think this time Daniel's got a good run on John. They're gonna fight it out. John's going to go defensive as far as he can. Daniel's going to try and go around the outside. John probably was a little cheeky there by moving back across like he did. I don't think there's wing damage there. It could be. There was quite a bit of a bump, but at the same time there has been desync throughout this race, I've noticed, so it could have been just a bit of desync there, and because it doesn't look like Daniel's being affected by it. In fact, if anything, I reckon John's probably used his tyres too much up, trying to hold Daniel back. So I think Daniel's actually now starting to use the effects of the tyres to put the pressure on John, and John's now struggling to keep the balance going that he had a few laps back. And they've actually still, despite everything, in fact, yeah, there we go. So John's decided to come in early. So understandably, I would say the undercut here is not very powerful. It's not like Mexico. So I wouldn't think too much about whether John's going to jump, because we saw this in, I think it was either F3.
The overcut actually worked better, didn't it?
Yeah, I think the overcut worked better in the F4 race, which I think because Albert came in behind, Luke came in. Well, no, the overcut, the overcut and the undercut are actually equal. It's just that it's because they're equal in the talent point, because I remember Luke doing the overcut on the fact that he was on the soft tyre versus Albert on the hard, super soft, and then when they came out, the time between the two was stable, so there was no actual thing. But the most important thing about these strategies is fresh air, and John has plenty of fresh air at the moment. So if I was Daniel, I'd be reacting right now, and he's not. So Daniel's convinced that the tyres can go that much longer, or he's just trying to push that.
That one with the softs. I just realized that.
Yeah, actually that's interesting too. So maybe John is doing the two-stop as well. So it bugs a lot of people that think, oh, they're doing the one-stop, and this has been the highest talking point of the whole season. A lot of drivers, especially drivers from F2, look to the F1 for strategy. I remember last week in the prep up for the Mexican Grand Prix, everyone was going, oh, we're going to do the one-stop, the fastest strategy. And then when they saw the F1 race and saw John doing a two-stop, they went, oh, well, maybe the two-stop's the way to go then. So people can talk about their strategies as much as they want, but at the end of the day, once they watch the F1 race, and this is, the pinnacle of the
Yeah, I preferred the two-step yesterday.
And
I don't
Daniel's
know why,
in.
it just felt pretty fast.
Oh, Daniel, no.
Oh,
A little too aggressive. And I don't blame him in that regard. He's going to the medium, so Daniel's doing the one stop. This could be a defining fact. Actually, I think the one stop might save him in this regard, as John does the fastest lap of the race. Actually, John's cleared him quite convincingly, actually.
Oh. Looks like Daniel had a little moment in the exit.
Yeah, John's actually cleared him quite easily and with time to spare, but if they are going by the basis that John's on a two-stop, that will change in the course of time, and Daniel will take these mediums to the end without a doubt. But with a 5-second stop-go, well, basically a 5-second time penalty looming over his head now, if John goes on the two-stop, Daniel's going to have to try and hope that he can stay within 5 seconds of John during John's charge to mount an attack. Now, that battle between Nadir and James has gone in favour of James, and James has managed to pull out a bit of a gap on Nadir in that process too. Melvin hasn't come in yet, nor has Engine or Addy, so these two are running a longer game, so these two are definitely on a one-stop strategy based on those numbers. You wouldn't really want to push your super softs any further than what they have, but Engine has cleared, actually I've just come to click on that one, that Engine has cleared Eddie some way through the race too, because Eddie was in P3 originally and now Engine has cleared him, so it'll be interesting to see what happens between these guys as time presses on. John is slowly now catching the back of Nadir, and that's of course different strategy, different tyres. Now, Nadir by no stretch of the imagination has to get out of John's way, because this is a battle for position, not a things not getting lapped. Now, actually, where is March in contract? Oh no, he's quite a fair bit back, so he's not under threat from being lapped. Or is he? Hang on, where's March? Coming through turn 2 and 3? Nah, he's still got a bit to go, and everyone's got to come in at some point, so John will have DRS coming down the straight, and it'll be interesting. Oh, Tyler's completely actually lost track of Tyler for a minute there, but where? Oh, we got a virtual safety car too, so Engine's timed this to perfection, as is Addy.
Nice.
This could be
James and Nadir.
So here comes.
Oh, yeah.
I know John. Actually, this will play into favour for Engine, because Engine will be allowed to go as fast as he can through pit lane. No, he's dropped back. He's dropped the gas, but he should come out ahead of Daniel, which is true. So that virtual safety car has brought Engine back into the game, and Engine will have the fresher of the two tyres, so Daniel will be a bit disappointed by that, a little bit, and Addy's made some good ground on that as well. The one person who didn't pit during that whole process was Melvin, and I'm a bit surprised by that. But he's obviously not. He obviously wants to take these tyres as far as he can, so he must be looking to go to the one stop from the soft to the supers, which is not an easy task to accomplish, but we'll see what happens anyway. If he comes in now, he's going to completely throw that concept straight out the window, but it doesn't look like it has done anything. But it's strange. I thought Engine would have been a lot further forward on Daniel, but now Daniel's right on the back of Engine and about to launch a move here. And this will be an interesting battle, and I reckon this will be an interesting contrast to next season, because I know this season is just a bit of a... Ooh, that was a bit weird. I just saw an engine pod fly into the windshield into the mirror of the Alfa Romeo there, but looks like it's all set in motion. But I think it doesn't really matter at this point, because John will take the race win, and even where Daniel is right now, he will be the champion heading into Abu Dhabi, so it's going to be an interesting contest for Abu Dhabi next season, well, next weekend, what with me making my return well, my final stand in F1, depending on what my pace is like on F1 2019, I could be back, you never know. But, you know, F3 and F4 is decided, so everyone will just be racing for sheep stations. F2 could be the only championship that goes to Abu Dhabi, depending on the championship situation. So Mackenzie will probably give you a rundown on that heading into the weekend, but I'll give you a proper surmised estimation of the theory. So it's a 5-point gap between Matthew Plevy and Sebastian Spicer heading into the weekend. Now, there's reasons to think that Matthew Plevy may or may not attend today's race. If he doesn't attend today's race and Sebastian Spicer wins the Grand Prix, Sebastian will be the F2 champion, and that will be a record for the TNF1 where all categories have been decided on the same weekend. Last season, F1 was decided at Mexico with my second World Championship. F2 was decided at Abu Dhabi with Mackenzie taking that championship. And then F3 was decided at Mexico as well, I believe, with Stefan Namberger being the declared the F3 champion there. So this season we've got 2 championships decided with Albert Ramirez Garcia F4, Sterling West F3. We could see F1 today decided with Daniel Val, and could possibly see F2 decided with Sebastian Spicer, only on the prospect that Matthew Plevy doesn't turn up and Sebastian Spicer wins. Constructors wise, Mackenzie didn't give me the standings today, so I can't tell you that much, but with no Mercedes here present at all this weekend, and at least one Red Bull and one Ferrari, that's going to put a spanner in the works in the championship scale there. F2 is a certainty that Renault could possibly wrap up the constructors this weekend. F3 have reason to believe it's still close between Haas, Renault and Toro Rosso Honda. And F4, I'm convinced that Alfa Romeo has won the constructors there. But anyway, we've got a battle here now between Daniel and Engine. Daniel's gonna... it doesn't look like he was going to mount a move there. We've just seen a move made by James on Melvin. Melvin's got the fresher tyres though by 3 laps, so should make this next move easy, and does so, although James holds it up the inside. But Melvin will have the inside into 3. They're going to push each other. They're going to biff and barge down the back straight. Side by side, this part never goes down well. Who had the DRS? I think it was James. James was just slightly behind enough, and he'll hold the position for now. Nadir's not too far back from these two either, so he could capitalise on that as Melvin goes down the inside at 5. It does show that James is on the softs, make no mistake, he is on the mediums. John is the only driver on the... Oh, James, super tank slapper. And you don't want to do it there of all places, because that corner is off camber as well, so you don't want to be losing the rear end at any given stage of the map. So John's the only one on the soft tyre, so I'm convinced to this point that John is the only driver on the 2-stop strategy, whereas everyone else is running the 1-stop. So the biggest problem for Daniel is that he needs to be making ground on John now while his mediums are coming up to temperature. Having Engine in front of him was probably not part of the plan.
Well, I guess it definitely wasn't part of the plan, but things happen. You didn't expect a virtual safety car to work perfectly for Engine.
No, I mean, I thought under the pre-circumstances that actually he would have come out in the lead of the race based on that, but I guess he must have not been far enough for the pit window to still establish, because you take the pit window, which I don't actually know what Brazil's pit window is, to be honest, but you take the pit window, you then halve it, and that's basically what the time you set when you pit under a virtual safety car. So it was obviously enough to go from position 3 up to position 2 ahead of Daniel, But of course, John did have the undercut on Daniel, as Daniel now goes around the outside of, convincingly around the outside of Engine at turn 1 and should have the position. But of course, Engine will have DRS heading into the second part, and Daniel hasn't had the best exit out of 2, so that's compromised him. Daniel's going to go to the inside to hold that line. Engine will go to the outside. Daniel again tries to return to the racing line, and that's what got John into a bit of trouble earlier because of the you're only allowed to move once sort of trick. So by returning to the racing line, that is actually by racing law making a second move. So you have to be careful in those kind of situations to not get stumped under that. Now Melvin's finally cleared James and has made it through, and Nadir's slowly drawing up onto the back of these two as well. And they're all, apart from Melvin, all on pretty much the same tyre strategy, and March further back still hasn't really made much ground even after the pit lane servicing, and he'll be expected, I would say he's probably going to try and take those tyres to the end, which is a very, very tall order. That's looking at about, how many laps have we got left? About 15 laps, so that's about 33 laps on those tyres. It's not impossible, but it's not great. It's not the greatest look. He'll probably end up just pitting for the fastest lap. So with Tyler out of the race, it does bring the F1 order back into perspective, because of course Tyler's not racing for points. So the top 8 will score points if they can stay in the top 8. I don't know if Tyler said anything in regards to what.
Yeah, he said he lost the back end.
No, it did too. So yeah, I'd expect March in once the window opens to allow the super softs to get to the end, and he'll jump in. So now that, actually, surprisingly, well, I wouldn't say surprisingly, but it's amazing to think that the Engine's been able to stay with Daniel through that whole point. He's got DRS, but Daniel's managed to clear that point where the DRS is really at its effectiveness. So he'll be alright now, and he'll try and chase down John as much as he can. But Daniel's going to need to kind of get his ass into gear too if he wants to stay second, because he'll end up third based on the time penalty for the unserved stop-go. And actually, this is a question I want to kind of ask you, actually. In the F1 gaming construct, if you get a drive-through penalty, you have to serve it within 3 laps. Now, do you think that rule should apply to a stop-go?
Probably not a stop-go. Just because, essentially, the name of it, it's a stop-go. So it's got to be served on a stop. Drive-through, it's hard to say.
Look, I've always
stop goes, maybe. I'm thinking stop goes, like, if you don't actually have to make a stop, maybe you should have to stop.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's I like back in the 90s, and this is going off Formula 1 basis, but the Australian Supercar Championship used to have a system called a stop-go penalty, and it was basically like a drive-through, except you stopped at the pit lane speed limiter for the exit. You come to a stop, and there would be a marshal with a red sign to say stop, and then as soon as the marshal flicked it to go, then you would go. So it was a literal stop-go penalty. Now, I reckon if instead of creating this 5-second stop-go, 10-second stop-go penalty system for pit lane services, I reckon a stop-go penalty by driving to the end of the pit lane, stopping, then going, should attest to a crime for all instances. So you only usually get a 5-second stop-go for speeding in pit lane for a massive corner cut validation or for an illegal overtake. So generally, these are all instances that could warrant a stop-go anyway, or a drive-through anyway, because there's another supercar example is that the certain tracks have certain corner cutting ping restrictions. So there's a sensor on the corner, and during qualifying, if you hit that ping, you get immediate invalidation of your lap time. In the race, you get 5 warnings. On the 4th warning, you get a bad sportsmanship flag, and then on the 5th warning, you get a drive-through penalty, and then from there, it's immediate drive-through penalties, any other exceeding that you make. Now, I reckon that should be something that Formula 1 kind of incorporate, but then again, the strict corner cutting system of F1 gaming is not actually what the F1 drivers in real life take, because you see drivers exceeding track limit in the real